Are you a fan of fast and powerful crossovers? Well, the car behind me is the first time ever that Volvo has brought over a Polestar version of a crossover to America. And in this video, we're going to take a closer look at this XC60 Polestar engineered crossover to see if it competes with cars like the Audi SQ5. Let's start under the hood because of course that's where the power is. And this engine produces normally 400 horsepower, but with the Polestar version, you actually get 15 more. So you're at 415 horsepower and 494 pound-foot of torque, which is substantial. Now, is that fast enough to compete with the SQ5? Volvo says that this car will go from 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds, as opposed to 5.1 seconds for the SQ5. So if you're keeping tabs, this is a faster car. We're gonna do an impromptu 0 to 60, no, actually 0 to 100K PH, because we're in Canada and they've actually switched to metric, unlike us.
Yeah, so the cones with the start gate now, we've got two large cones on the right hand side.
Okay. And that's when we hit a quarter mile at the end there?
Quarter mile.
So that's weird, we're mixing. So for all you Canadians and Europeans, you're gonna get a 0 to 100, and for all you Americans, you're gonna get, all right? So okay. I'll 3, 2, 1, and I'll just floor it, right?
Whenever you're ready.
I'm gonna pull up this turbo. Brake torque it, 3, 2, 1, go. 60, 80, 90, 100 right there. And now just buried. Going for the quarter mile. Camera outside is whistling, and now. All right, what's the verdict? So we got 15.78. 7.45 seconds is not even close to what Volvo says the car should get, but keep in mind we were at about a mile above sea level, and we did try the run several times, so sometimes sea level does play an important factor. So if a car goes fast, it has to stop quickly as well, and the Polestar has you covered. If you get the Polestar package, not only do you get these big ass, of course, yellow brakes, and keep that color in mind because there's also another yellow Polestar accessory that I'll show you in a second, but this vehicle has the optional 22s with these Polestar wheels. And if you're going to go fast and stop quickly, you're also going to need better suspension to handle all that performance. And with the Polestar, you get that. You get optional, well in this case, mandatory Öhlins suspension that you can customize, so you can put this car in different modes. And when you put it in Polestar engineered mode, that's when it firms everything up and makes it much more sporty and much more fun in my opinion. So we've got really 4 modes. We've got constant all-wheel drive, which is just standard. Yep. Pure Eco, which is electric mode. So if you want to run on electricity only, about 18 to 20 miles. Then you can also go hybrid, which basically sends power back into the battery, so it regens it. And then of course, Polestar engineered, that's the one where we were just in. That's where you get better throttle response. The engine revs a little bit higher, tightens up the steering. And then if you have to, you've got off-road mode right here where you can actually go off-road, even though with these 22s, I would stay away from anything more than a dirt road. To change the Öhlins dampers, do you have to manually do it? Do you have to go under?
It's manually, yeah.
It's manual, okay.
Yeah, so it's under the hood, just above on the strut towers, and just atop of the rear wheels. It just takes about a minute to do it, and you can really dive into the detail if that's what you want to do. But
so it's kind of old school. So at this point, you might be wondering, what is a Volvo XC60 T8e all-wheel drive Polestar? And this were complete, it would say Polestar engineered. Well, that's a great question because the branding on this car is a little confusing. So of course, the XC60 is the mid-sized Volvo crossover. So the T8 means that under the hood is a turbocharged and supercharged inline 4 that's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now the all-wheel drive part is super interesting because with this Polestar, you also get about 100 horsepower electric motor that powers the rear wheels. So there is no drive shaft going from the front of the car to the back of the car. Basically, the Super Turbo is powering the front wheels and the electric motor is powering the rear wheels, kind of like an RX in the Lexus lineup. And of course, Polestar engineered means that it's the Volvo sporty vehicle. And once upon a time, Polestar was kind of like the AMG and M version of BMW and Mercedes, but now Volvo has split off Polestar as a separate company, and it's complicated.
Yeah, Polestar is now a separate company outside of Volvo, so they do their own thing and they actually start building their own cars. And then what we have left now at Volvo then is the Polestar Engineered, so they kind of helped us to engineer some of this hardware and software changes into the car. So we kind of in some ways get a little bit of the best of the both worlds. And we kind of done this a little bit differently for Volvo. It's a new time now, to get more performance, we use electrification. We add on batteries and more power and more torque via the motors. So that's kind of the Volvo way of getting more power and more fun to drive for the cars.
Now at this point you may be wondering, how much does all this Polestar goodness cost and what else do I get with it? Because it's not inexpensive. $73,500 is the MSRP on this car, and that's a lot for a mid-size crossover. Even a mid-size crossover that will do 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. So of course you have to have your obligatory blacked out fascia. And of course, a much more aggressive looking front end so that people know that when this Volvo is in the rearview mirror, they should get out of the way. And if they're behind you, how will they know that you're in the bad boy XC60 and not just some run-of-the-mill family crossover? Well, blacked out exhaust tips. And if you look very closely here, it even says Polestar Engineered. Let's give it a rev.
You're getting a lot of more hardware changes on the car. You get the Econobo brakes when you look at an XC60. You get the Brembo brakes if you look at an S60 or a V60. You get the Öhlins dampers. So the whole system in the car is beefed up. They're also always based on the T8 drivetrain, so it's a plug-in hybrid. You get a little bit more power, so you have 415 horsepower instead of 400, and also you get a bump on the torque. So the whole car is beefed up to be as sporty, basically, as we can make it.
So how do you know you're in the Polestar when you're inside the car? Well, it's really easy. Those yellow brake calipers, all right, they're technically gold, are also reflected in these gold seat belts. So yeah, if you see Volvo with gold seat belts, you might want to give them a little bit of room.
All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to put you to the test. So we're in this Polestar Engineered XC60, and we've got a few obstacles along the way. So we've got a sudden lane change. So we've got 3 boxes in front of us, so we're going to nip through that as quick as we can. And we've got 6 cones just after that for our slalom. Okay. So we're going to build our speed up through there, and then we've got a 1/4 mile drag on the way down, and then we've got a real heavy emergency brake on the very end. See how these 6-volt calipers hold up.
All right.
And we're going to go for another run after that. How does that sound?
That sounds great. So
all right.
This is the moose test. So
that's the moose test.
If you guys aren't familiar with the moose test, there are some Swedish journalists who would basically simulate a moose being on the road. And what would happen is the car would accelerate toward the moose, emergency situation, and swerve out of the way of the moose. And if the car wasn't sorted, it could get on 3 wheels, and in the worst case scenario, it would roll, or it could roll.
Absolutely.
There's videos of tires falling off the wheel. Anyway, look it up on YouTube, you'll see the moose test.
Absolutely. Well, for the first run, I reckon we can do 50-55 Ks pretty comfortably, and then the second one,
we'll go a little quicker.
All right,
so just
here we
bring
go.
up to about 55.
That's it.
Okay, that's 40, that's 50. So just
pretty comfortable, I'd say.
And then just take these sound cones.
That's it, all the way through, just building that speed up gradually. The space between the cones is exactly the same.
So we're doing about 60K right now, and this car is not struggling at all. Look at that. Even if this little bad boy misbehaves, you've got a plastic container here to keep all the mess out of the vehicle. Of course, if this was a horse trailer, dude, you could just pee and it would go right through the slats. But it's a Volvo, so yeah, no horse trailer. How are you guys? No problems? No misbehaving? At this point, you may be wondering, hey, can I drive only using the battery? And the answer is, of course. You can go about 20 miles on the battery, but if you give it the gas, this guy's going to turn into more of a traditional car, and you're going to be using the gasoline super turbo along with the electricity. So yeah, let's see, a supercharger, a turbocharger, and electrification. That's a lot of technology going on in a mid-size crossover.
Yeah, the battery pack is 11.6 kilowatt hours. Yep. So you get a range of, I remember correctly, it's 18 miles pure electric mode if you want to drive it like that. And then when you really floor it, you take as much juice as you can from the battery. And we also have an integrated starter generator that actually can send power to the rear wheels. So you're never going to run out of power for the rear wheels. You always have enough juice as well as power for the rear wheels. So it's always going to be a four-wheel drive car no matter what. So.
But there's no drive shaft, right?
No drive shafts, that's correct. Yeah, so the physical connection is only to the front wheels, and then it's always torque from the motor, the electric motor for the rear wheels and rear tires.
And how long to recharge using standard electricity at home? Like one
standard at home, then it's going to take, let's say, up to 10 hours, 7 to 7. And 240 is going to be about 2.5 hours.
Okay. So I think we went through the Moose test about 52k.
Yeah,
so we can bring that up a little bit.
60?
Yeah, we can go for 60.
We'll go for 60. This car was not even breaking a sweat. So we're at 45, 60. We're at 60, 63. That's a little bit better. Let's do the cones.
We're starting in at 70.
Yeah, starting at 70.
There we go, 75, 76. That's 80.
There we go, that's a little better. Yeah, that's better. So I've had the chance to drive both this car and the SQ5. Which one would I choose? Well, it really depends. I mean, do you want a car where you're going to take the kids and the dog and the family to school, or do you want a car where you're going to go carving canyons? If you want the carving canyon, I'd go for the Audi. If you want the fast schoolmobile, I'd go for this one. Either way, you can't go wrong. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fastlane Car. Check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and of course, Polestar engineered reviews. See you guys next time. Ciao.